Meghan Markle breaks her agreement with King Charles and Buckingham Palace to leak to her friends at People magazine less than a week after that promised meeting with Charles and Queen Camilla.
She has been honored just today, we find out, by the Emmys with a daytime Emmy nod for that hideous Netflix show she did.
I just don't see those as bad traits. What I see is somebody very organized who knows what they want to do and also wants to get on with it.
Prince Harry is apparently upset with Elton John because they were all in this lawsuit against the Daily Mail UK.
She certainly knows that she's in a far more invidious position than she would have hoped to be in.
Meanwhile, Prince Harry has arrived back in the United States, completely fine, proving the point that I have made, by the way, for months and years, that they can travel in and out of the UK with their children privately.
Just 6 days. That was all it took before the promise made to the king appeared to fall apart. No briefings, no leaks, no quiet attempts to steer the public conversation. That was reportedly the understanding. Yet only days later, a glossy People magazine cover arrived, and one particular line inside seemed to reveal exactly who wanted to shape the narrative and exactly how they hoped the public would see Meghan. Take a close look at what readers were presented with on the magazine cover. Harry's royal reunion at last. Inside came a dramatic package of headlines: a difficult visit, a painful court loss, a long-awaited meeting with King Charles, and repeated references to Meghan and the children being connected to the story. But once you move past the headline and into the details, the story begins to raise even more questions. Readers were told that the Duchess had planned to stand beside Prince Harry.
As you saw from that People magazine cover, they couldn't hold their silence. What they had told King Charles was a lie, because look at that. Harry's royal reunion at last. His family visit Charles as new drama unfolds inside Prince Harry's turbulent UK visit, from a public palace dispute to a crushing court loss to a long-awaited reunion with King Charles alongside Meghan, Archie and Lily, directly contravenes what Prince Harry and Meghan Markle had agreed with the palace, which was that there was to be no briefing around this visit to try and shape the narrative in favour of one party. But she can't help herself, can she? So this is the cover report where People says the Duchess planned to be by her husband's side for several outings. However, there was an about face when security concerns prevented her and their 2 children from a full visit to Harry's home country. Now, again, this is totally intellectually dishonest reporting from People magazine. There's been no about face. Nothing has changed. Like, they got the security that has already been agreed. So no about face, just to correct.
During several engagements until there was an alleged last-minute about face because security concerns supposedly prevented Meghan and the children from travelling. The problem is that no such dramatic reversal appears to have happened. The security arrangements remained the same ones they had already accepted before the trip. Nothing was suddenly upgraded, and nothing was unexpectedly removed. The explanation, instead, created the impression of a sudden twist, offering a dramatic reason for an absence that many people were already questioning. Then the tone noticeably shifts. One source familiar with the couple reportedly says Meghan would have felt deeply humiliated watching the public back and forth unfold. Another insider claims there was genuine sadness over how the entire week played out.
That Prince Harry has in the past directly emailed People magazine. We know that People magazine effectively operates as like the house journal for the Sussexes. And we know that Meghan Markle wanted it to be known to the world that the choreography of this meeting was nothing to do with her. Look at the headline. Meghan Markle always lets Prince Harry lead when it comes to the royal family. There's a lot of sadness over how the week unfolded and that she wasn't able to be by his side throughout the visit. That she would have felt humiliated. Oh, poor Meghan. Humiliated watching the public back and forth unfold. Another source tells people Meghan is very supportive of Harry, adding there's a lot of sadness over how the week unfolded and that she wasn't able to be by his side. However, another insider adds when it comes to Harry's dealings with his family, she always lets him lead. Behind the scenes, the drama surrounding the visit was quite stressful.
The wording invites sympathy while carefully steering attention away from tougher questions. Then comes the sentence that many critics believe says everything. When it comes to Harry's dealings with his family, she always lets him lead. She always lets him lead. That does not read like simple reporting. It reads like an effort to carefully separate Meghan from responsibility for a week that she was reportedly involved in planning. And the message is delivered without much disguise. What makes the situation even more interesting is the publication itself. Prince Harry has reportedly communicated with People magazine directly in the past, not simply through official spokespeople, but personally. For years, the outlet has often been viewed by commentators as a friendly platform where stories connected to the Sussexes regularly appear without obvious public attribution. So when a cover story suddenly features comments from a source close to the couple, another insider, and a source who knows them well, many observers argue there is very little mystery surrounding where those talking points may have originated.
Well, I think that'll probably be a big issue for them because they do love a controversy because it boosts their brand, it boosts their numbers. But the reality is, you summed it up brilliantly in that intro. But you know, this has been a fiasco. It's been a circus. But actually, has it really hit anybody? You know, I thought actually it was quite. After all the toing and froing, it was quite low-key. The bigger picture was on Wowsies and them at Wimbledon and William playing polo.
Writing Prince Harry, the bonehead who sinks millions into failed privacy actions and who says camera flashes terrify him, is now doing cheesy "have you got my best side, guys" camera turns at celebrity galas like he's Meghan Markle's sugar lump veneers. Hypocritical old ham. And indeed, he was loving this event so much overnight that he even praised.
Whether it comes from the couple themselves, trusted friends, or members of their communications team, the overall impression leaves many believing the message did not appear by accident and was intended to shape the story in exactly that direction. There wasn't a middle ground left. From the way critics describe it, the palace made one simple request above everything else: keep the conversations private and avoid public briefings. That expectation reportedly survived for less than a week before fresh headlines appeared. But many commentators argue that is not even the most damaging part of the magazine cover. Hidden deeper inside the same feature is a claim involving Prince William that makes the entire narrative appear far more carefully organized than it first seemed. Before getting to that point, look at what happened in New York.
I mean, I just don't see those as bad traits. What I see is somebody very organized who knows what they want to do and also wants to get on with it. You know, part of the thing about being the monarchy in waiting as it is that when you look at, say, His Majesty the King, King Charles, you know, he had a long time, but you can't do much because it's a constraint. You know, you've got the monarch at the top, which was his mum, the Queen.
I thought that this whole nonsense about the security was something they've just dreamed up from their own team. If you speak to people in the intelligence services, there is no threat against Harry, and that is why Ravak have not stepped up the security. If there was, the security level would be higher, and he would get an appropriate security as long as he gave them the notice that was required to actually do that review.
While the magazine was heading to newsstands, Prince Harry was attending the Time 100 event alone. No Meghan beside him, cameras lining the entrance, photographers calling for attention, and flashes lighting up the red carpet from every direction. That image stands out because Harry has spent years speaking publicly about how camera flashes remind him of deeply painful memories. His legal arguments have repeatedly centered on concerns that relentless media attention can be harmful, and he has often described the experience of photographers following him as something profoundly distressing. Yet during this appearance, he appeared completely at ease, smiling and interacting with photographers instead of avoiding them. Witnesses even heard him enthusiastically responding with comments like, "Love it," "Life is yours," "Outstanding," perfect. Then came another playful remark. One lady, there's one lady, she's the best. It did not look like someone simply enduring the attention. To many watching, it looked more like someone comfortably engaging with the moment and happily working the cameras. A reporter then called out, asking whether he was disappointed about England being knocked out. Of course, Harry replied, before continuing on without stopping. The exchange lasted only a couple of seconds. Some critics questioned whether the response felt brief and routine, especially considering his previous public comments that have sparked debate about English football culture. The trip itself also became part of the wider discussion. Harry arrived, attended the event, completed his appearances, and departed without any reported security incident or unexpected confrontation. There were no major disruptions, no dramatic scenes, and no visible threats during the visit. For many observers, that naturally raised another question. If the cameras were not creating problems and the travel itself unfolded smoothly, then what exactly remains at the center of this long-running dispute? Supporters and critics continue to offer different answers, but many commentators argue the issue extends beyond immediate physical safety alone. Here are the publicly discussed facts. Harry's automatic state-funded protection changed after he stepped away from official royal duties in 2020. Since then, he has continued challenging aspects of those arrangements through legal channels. Reports from commentators familiar with the process have stated they are unaware of any publicly confirmed, specific threat assessment directed toward him. If future security evaluations were to identify a qualifying risk, those assessments would be expected to guide the appropriate level of protection. Based on what has been reported so far, critics argue there is no evidence that security is being withheld simply out of personal hostility or spite, because according to the available information, no qualifying assessment has publicly demonstrated the need for additional measures. Take a moment and compare the locations because the contrast is difficult to ignore. Birmingham was reportedly the engagement that Harry chose not to attend. That naturally leads many people to ask a simple question. Is Birmingham really considered more dangerous than Bogota? Over the past few years, Harry has traveled to Colombia, visited Nigeria, and even made a trip to Ukraine while the country was experiencing an active conflict. None of those visits produced the same level of public debate over whether the journey could safely happen. Yet a charity appearance in England's West Midlands was presented as something far more difficult to arrange. Critics argue that this does not sound like a security decision alone. To them, it sounds much more like part of a broader negotiation. There is also another point that many commentators say rarely receives enough attention. British state-funded protection does not automatically end the moment someone boards an international flight. It is not collected at passport control and handed back after departure. That simply is not how those arrangements generally work. Former prime ministers provide an example often mentioned in this discussion. Tony Blair has traveled extensively around the world, whether in the Middle East, Davos, or elsewhere, while official security arrangements have continued to accompany him where appropriate. Now, consider how that discussion is often applied to Harry. Reports have suggested that he spends several $1 million each year on private security while living in California. If publicly funded protection were ever fully restored under the arrangements being debated, critics argue that those private costs could largely disappear, with taxpayers potentially carrying much of the financial responsibility instead. That could extend beyond visits to Britain and include protection while living in Montecito, traveling internationally, taking holidays, or attending commercial events over many years. Harry is now in his early 40s, and his children are still very young. Some commentators have argued that, projected across several decades, the potential cost would become extremely significant. Reports have also claimed that before stepping away from royal duties, King Charles warned Harry to think carefully about the long-term consequences. According to those accounts, he emphasized that security would likely become one of the biggest issues if Harry decided to leave. Harry reportedly believed his military service, including his deployment to Afghanistan, might influence that outcome. In the end, it did not appear to change the official position. At the same time, major commercial agreements, including the Netflix partnership, were beginning to generate enormous expectations. Many assumed those opportunities would continue indefinitely. Looking back, critics now describe that expectation as one of the most expensive calculations made during that period, and they argue its financial impact continues to grow. There is still a version of events presented by some supporters where Harry and Meghan are portrayed as victims of a media circus that appeared without any encouragement from them. Critics argue that explanation quickly begins to unravel under closer examination. Reports indicate that their own representatives first informed journalists that all 4 family members were expected to travel. That information did not originate from Buckingham Palace or from royal correspondence. According to those reports, it came from their own side, creating headlines about a major royal reconciliation before official royal coverage had even gained momentum. Then came another public update. Suddenly, there were reports that Harry was reconsidering whether Meghan and the children would travel because of security concerns, despite those same arrangements already being understood when the original announcement was made. First came the announcement, then a very public change of direction, followed by magazine stories describing how emotionally difficult the situation had become. Throughout that period, the palace itself remained largely silent. There were no public rebuttals, no visible briefing campaign, and no ongoing public argument. Instead, it appeared to simply wait while decisions surrounding a long-standing hospitality offer remained unresolved. That offer may ultimately be the most significant part of the entire story. Many commentators believe that if it had been accepted from the beginning, the week might have unfolded very differently. Instead of becoming a public relations disaster, they argue the circumstances surrounding that offer could have created an entirely different constitutional conversation, one carrying consequences far beyond a single difficult week. At one stage, the reported plan was for Harry to stay inside Buckingham Palace itself, in an apartment located within the headquarters of the British monarchy. According to reports, that arrangement was initially agreed before being withdrawn shortly before it was expected to happen. Now, compare that development with everything else that unfolded during the very same week. Harry's legal challenge ended in defeat across every major point. Rather than simply accepting the outcome, he publicly criticized the judgment, described the result as a whitewash, questioned aspects of the legal process, continued his criticism of parts of the British media, and remained involved in separate legal action concerning the British government. For many observers, those issues go well beyond personal disagreement. A free press, an independent judiciary, and a democratically elected government are widely viewed as central parts of the constitutional system that the monarchy operates within. Commentators argue that the Crown traditionally exists alongside those institutions rather than in opposition to them. That broader constitutional context is why the timing of everything attracted so much attention. Now imagine how different the public reaction might have been if Harry had emerged from Buckingham Palace before making those same criticisms. Picture headlines connecting sharp comments about the courts, the press, and the government with the very building that symbolizes the constitutional monarchy itself. Many analysts believe that would have created an extraordinarily awkward image, one that could easily have overshadowed every other royal story that week. Some royal commentators believe officials may have recognized the potential for that conflict and acted quickly enough to avoid placing the palace at the center of an even larger constitutional debate. Whether or not that interpretation is correct, many agree the images would have remained part of the public conversation for years. Another question naturally follows. Why was the accommodation reportedly offered in the first place? Many believe the answer centered on the grandchildren. Reports have suggested that King Charles, now in his 70s and continuing cancer treatment, understood there was a possibility his grandchildren could be visiting Britain. For many observers, that possibility alone would have carried enormous personal importance. Supporters see that as an act of generosity from a grandfather hoping for precious family time. Critics, however, interpret the situation very differently. They argue it created circumstances where access to the king's grandchildren became part of a much larger and emotionally charged situation. Some commentators have even suggested that Queen Elizabeth II would likely have handled the matter differently, while others believe Prince William may take a firmer approach if faced with similar circumstances in the future. That brings the focus back to the person who never appeared at all, Meghan. The official explanation centered on security concerns, although many critics remain unconvinced by that reasoning. Instead, two other explanations continue to circulate among royal commentators. The first focuses on timing. This was the same week Harry experienced one of the most significant courtroom defeats of his public life. Any photograph showing the couple together during those difficult days would inevitably have linked Meghan to headlines about that legal setback. As a result, critics argue that when Harry faced one of the toughest public moments of his recent years, Meghan remained out of sight instead of standing beside him. The second explanation is even more direct, and it continues to appear in commentary across different outlets. Some observers believe Meghan avoided the visit because they expected a hostile public reception. They argue she could have faced loud boos from sections of the crowd, with those images and videos spreading across television, online platforms, and social media around the world within a very short time, becoming another dominant headline almost immediately. That moment is the kind of footage many believe is almost impossible to erase. No security team, no matter how experienced, can shield someone from public opinion once those images begin circulating. Consider what Meghan reportedly missed. The one-year countdown event for the Invictus Games in Birmingham was widely expected to feature both Harry and Meghan together. It was one of the few occasions on Harry's schedule that still carried significant public goodwill. Many commentators believe she had every reason to attend, making her absence even more noticeable. The reaction from supportive voices was also revealing. Rather than focusing on the decision not to attend, the narrative became what everyone else supposedly missed. Some described her absence as a crying shame, while others suggested the couple's appearance could have been transformative for the royal family. Critics argue that framing shifted attention away from the choice itself and toward what the public had allegedly lost. Even so, many observers believe none of that would matter as much if the financial picture looked stronger. Harry's legal challenge ended in defeat, and under the British legal system, the losing side may be required to pay significant costs. Reports have suggested the total figures involved could reach many millions of pounds. One question naturally followed: who would ultimately cover those expenses? According to multiple reports, King Charles has made it clear that he does not intend to pay Harry's legal bills. Commentators often point out that Charles previously funded Harry and Meghan's security for about a year after they stepped back from royal duties, but that arrangement eventually ended. As one well-known account puts it, Charles reportedly concluded, "I'm not a bank." Reports have also claimed Harry approached Elton John for financial assistance connected to legal costs. According to those accounts, Harry believed Elton had introduced him to the barrister involved and therefore might be willing to help. Those reports say Elton declined the request, leaving Harry disappointed. It is worth noting that Elton John was also one of the claimants involved in the broader legal action. Now look at the wider financial picture often discussed by commentators: ongoing private security costs, uncertainty surrounding future commercial income, questions about the long-term success of business ventures, and the conclusion of major entertainment deals have all fueled speculation about future finances. That broader context has led some royal commentators to interpret recent reconciliation efforts differently. Rather than viewing them purely as attempts to heal family relationships, they argue financial realities may also play a role. King Charles continues to hold an important position within the family while undergoing cancer treatment, and many observers note that any future support available to Harry would likely depend on decisions made during his father's reign. They also argue that once Prince William eventually becomes king, expectations of future financial assistance could change dramatically, with many believing there will be little, if any, additional support available. By this point, Harry almost certainly understands the reality of the situation, and many commentators assume Meghan does too. That is why some observers believe the reported meeting at Highgrove looked less like a simple family reunion and more like a moment carrying enormous significance, with time becoming an increasingly important factor. Right in the middle of everything, Harry was asked what sounded like a straightforward question: "What's your occupation?" Surprisingly, the answer that followed became a story of its own. He responded with a list that included full-time dad, army veteran, and Prince of England, before adding that, at least for that moment, he wasn't really sure what to say. The exchange immediately sparked discussion because several of those descriptions raised questions. For one thing, Prince of England is not an official royal title. Harry is a Prince of the United Kingdom. Critics found it surprising that someone born into the royal family would describe his title that way during a public interview. Then came the other descriptions. Being a full-time father is, of course, a personal role. But commentators pointed out that Harry had recently spent extended periods traveling away from home. His military service is an important part of his life and history, but it belongs to an earlier chapter that concluded many years ago. His dukedom remains an official title, yet a title itself is not the same as an occupation. That left many viewers asking the same question: what exactly is Harry's current professional role? The rest of the conversation quickly shifted toward light-hearted jokes, playful banter, and comments about grooming habits. Yet the timing made those moments stand out even more. This all happened during the same week Harry's legal challenge ended in a major courtroom defeat, while media attention surrounding the royal family continued to intensify. At almost the same time, two major American publications published stories centered on Harry and Prince William. People magazine reported that, despite Harry's reported meeting with King Charles, there had been no meaningful progress with William. One insider was quoted as saying, "It's so broken." The report also claimed there had been no contact between the cousins, reinforcing the picture of a family relationship that remained deeply strained. Another royal commentator suggested Princess Diana would have been heartbroken to see how events had unfolded. The New York Times published a separate article with a similar theme under the headline about Harry's trip missing a reunion with his brother. The newspaper does not frequently devote major coverage to royal family dynamics, which led some media watchers to pay closer attention to how the story was presented. One detail especially caught the attention of people familiar with journalism. The attribution lines in the two reports were noticeably different. One stated that spokespeople for Harry declined to comment. The other said Kensington Palace did not respond to requests for comment. To many newsroom veterans, those phrases are not interchangeable. Did not respond generally suggests no reply was received despite attempts to make contact. Decline to comment, however, usually indicates that communication actually took place and someone made a decision not to provide an official statement. It may seem like a small distinction, but media observers often consider wording like that meaningful because it reflects how information moves behind the scenes. As a result, some commentators argued that the contrast suggested one side had at least engaged with reporters while the other remained completely silent. Whether that interpretation is ultimately correct or not, it became another talking point in an already crowded news cycle. Meanwhile, reports from London suggested Harry spent about a week in Britain, informed palace officials that he was available to meet, and even left contact information before departing. According to those same reports, no meeting with Prince William took place before Harry returned home. Publicly, there was no confirmation of private conversations beyond what had already been reported. Then came another headline that many people described as remarkable because of its timing. During one of the most difficult weeks of Harry's recent public life, Meghan's Netflix lifestyle series received a Daytime Emmy nomination, despite Netflix announcing that the show would not continue. That combination immediately fueled debate across television, newspapers, and social media. The critical reception to the series had already been widely discussed. Review aggregators reflected mixed audience reactions, while several publications published sharply critical reviews. Among those opinions were descriptions that questioned the originality of the program and argued that many segments focused on ordinary activities presented as luxury lifestyle moments. Critics pointed to scenes involving simple entertaining ideas, decorative food presentation, and conversations with celebrity guests as examples that failed to connect with everyone watching. When Netflix confirmed the series would not return, the official statement emphasized Meghan's intention to continue growing her lifestyle brand independently into its next chapter. Supporters viewed that as a positive business decision. Critics, on the other hand, argued it was simply polished corporate language describing a cancelled series. Even with those differing interpretations, the Emmy nomination quickly became another headline in an already extraordinary week. Looking back across everything that happened, many commentators noticed the same pattern emerging again and again. There were public announcements, changes in plans, media reports citing unnamed sources, ongoing legal disputes, interviews, podcasts, and fresh headlines arriving one after another. Throughout that period, Buckingham Palace largely maintained its long-standing approach of making very few public comments, yet it still found itself portrayed as the central obstacle in several American news stories released on the very same day. For many observers, that contrast remains one of the biggest talking points because it highlights how competing narratives continue to shape public debate, even when official palace responses were kept to an absolute minimum. Whether people agree with those narratives or reject them completely, one thing is certain. The debate surrounding Harry, Meghan, and the royal family shows no sign of slowing down, and every new development seems to generate another round of questions. As fresh reports continue to emerge, the discussion is likely to remain firmly in the spotlight, with supporters and critics closely examining every new headline and every public appearance. What do you think? Do you believe this entire week was driven mostly by public relations, genuine family tensions, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more in-depth coverage of the latest royal stories, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update.